I haven't been able to make a darn thing lately. Mostly due to a recent PC crash. I lost a lot. A whole lot. But I don't think in the end I'll be out much more than time. Things seem to be back up and running well, fingers crossed. But while I try to get some of the project I was trying to stay up on back up and running, I want to open up an issue that has been on my mind lately. And if you've read the title, you know where I'm going with this. First off, I want to point out that this video will not be any official statement from Nintendo. You're not going to find any of that here, nor will it have any confirmation that the god-awful issue that has so many Pokemon fans upset, where a bunch of Pokemon are being cut from the new game. You're not going to find any official statements, is what I'm getting at. They, being Gamefreak, seem to have dug in their heels on this issue for not only these games, but it seems also all future entries. Instead, this video is going to be about me trying to brainstorm and spitball some ideas that I've been sitting on for a while, and I'm thinking it might at least curb some of the rage that has a lot of the longtime fans upset. And yeah, really, I'm just throwing an idea out there that is in a vein that I'd like to see explored again, and I think this might provide an opportunity to go through with it. So in an attempt to set the groundwork for where I come from as a fellow trainer, as all the official posts from Game Freak and Nintendo are so apt to call us, I just want to say, yes, I am definitely an older fan from way back in the OG Red and Blue days. Yes, my favorite Pokemon of all time may come from Gen 1, I love you Arcanine, and sure, it does seem to be, the air quotes, confirmed to be in the upcoming games. But I have a whole laundry list of absolutely beloved Pokemon spanning every gen, and can easily point to at least a few things about every generation main game so far that I really enjoyed. So it is, at least in my opinion, that I'm not exactly the cookie cutter Gen 1er, OG was the best gen bar none, come fight me in the back alley scrub that you might see all over the internet. Not only have I been playing since the old days before colored sprites, and let's be real, this doesn't count, but I have led and watched younger trainers rise up from the rookie noobs to being, heavy competition in any Pokemon to Pokemon battles or so on. And, well, to give you a bit of a story, I used to volunteer quite a bit for a local Cub Scout group, and frankly, when I was, sitting back with the rest of the on-site adults, making sure no kids are trying to poke each other's eyes out with the nearest long pointy stick, while we're all waiting for their parents to arrive to pick them up, I have often found myself discussing Pokemon or even battling the kids on our 3DSs. I think that's how you'd word that. Yeah, I guess so. That's more than one 3DS. I have kept a living dex over the years, and have a mostly completed Pokedex up to the current gen at least, and would build my teams keeping in mind the interest and general competitive level of the kids I was battling. As an example, if I knew the young man was a lover of dogs, then I'd go through and build a team of the first bunch of good boys that I came across in the PC. Team dynamics set aside, since I don't exactly want to battle competitively with some of the younger new players. I had a number of shinies, and yeah, the kids would get a kick out of seeing them in the game. So that at least builds up something of an image of my history with the franchise. Now that the metaphorical plate has been set, let's get on to the meat and potatoes. What you've been seeing in the background is the menu layout from an old Pokemon title, Pokemon Stadium 2. And while I won't be going off of it directly, saying, oh, this is exactly what I want, but I will be using it to provide a layout of the idea I'll be building off of. Given that Gamefreak has made their stance firmly that Pokemon cut from region to region going forward will not, at any point, be updated to include the full dex, and that their transfer service, so far, is set to be a one-way path that if you import Pokemon yet to be supported from Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, or Go, will be held captive in that digital storage and be held hostage to continued payments, be it monthly or yearly, or face termination and be deleted forever. I propose another option. In this, I'll appropriate some ideas from past titles in the franchise and create a new alternative title. For the sake of it, I'll call this Pokemon Yard. That way it's well included in spirit to Pokemon House Arrest. Using the map before you as a platform, let's go in no particular order, starting with the pretty needed in-game Pokemon option for this program. Let's place it here. I think this was the lab in Stadium 2. Forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm going entirely off of memory and this map. In this hypothetical game, the program would support all current Pokemon at the time of release, but the option you might have at any given point in time may be limited. Let's say, for example, 200, and I'm just throwing that low number out to make an example. Now wait. That's even lower than the rumored 400 going around at the moment. Doesn't that completely defeat the purpose of this program? Not quite. At least not as I have it laid out in my head. Here's how I see it working. At any given point, you can have access to 200 of your favorite Pokemon from your home account. And at any point, you can swap which ones you have in the yard with the ones you have at home. All future updates, after the initial release, would come as patches. Or, God forbid, DLC. These would require the Nintendo Internet package to get. After all, everyone wants their cash cut somehow, and this will help Nintendo get their slice of the cake. These updates would add all the new Pokemon and incorporate them somehow into the other functions we'll get into as we progress. Most of these are just spitballed ideas that I'd like to see as sort of a base concept. So, this section still circled is basically where all that storage shenanigans will take place. Moving on, above that, we have something that I'd very much like to see make a return. The Gym Leader Castle. I'm not sure if it'd be a castle in the yard, but since I'm talking in the context of Stadium 2, let's take a closer look. This is what the castle looked like in Part 2 of the Stadium 2 game. What this would be in my fictional title is something like a weekly revolving list of 8 gym leaders and, 4 special trainers, such as rivals, champions, and other notable character-specific trainers from throughout the franchise, possibly even at different points in time. Something like what they did in Fire Emblem, I think it was Fates, where you could battle and recruit other units from past games. Anyways, all entries would have a full team made up of what they might have had in their respective games, pulled from anime appearances, or just filled out with fitting support Pokemon. After all, this is kind of supposed to be a bit of a challenge, so they should have a full team of 6. Each leader would give an in-yard specific rendition of their official badges, or other respective proofs of victories, while repeat victories in following weeks would grant an in-game currency that we'll get to a bit later. While the special trainers, they might give special items or small trinkets used throughout the game. Once again, something I'll cover as we get further on. That's basically what I see this as. A fun revolving door of loved characters that those of us that don't want to battle online, or maybe just not battle online at the moment, can still battle for the sake of not missing out on the battle experience, and this has a fun little twist with familiar characters. In the upper section, this used to be the festival, I think, where you'd get to play in some mini-games with some of your Pokemon if you had any at the moment that qualified for the mini-game rules. If you didn't, they kind of just gave you like rental Pokemon or something like that, and you could still play them. I would replace this with something akin to a one-on-one Pokemon Me-like interactive session. I don't think I need to go much more into this. You get to see your Pokemon roam in a set space, interact with them in various ways, probably pulling inspiration from current and past ways that they've made it happen before. Heck, throw in a camera feature, I don't care. There's so many different ways that this could go, and it would help round it out. Moving clockwise to the right, I think this was where you went to partake in multiplayer battles. I think this can be cut entirely from being a separate space and saved for the center stage, which I'll go over last. Moving on down, there was a school. I think this offered some helpful tips and gave some mock battles for new trainers. This might not be needed, but it is nice for new trainers. In my opinion, this could stay or go, but it would definitely have to be reworked to include newer and relevant information. On the bottom right, this would be a hard cut. This was an option back in the day to play your handheld games on the big screen. Unless you could wirelessly transmit the data from the 3DS to the Switch to put the 3DS games on the TV, I don't much see a need for this feature today, especially since the main games going forward will be on the Switch already. Back when this map was relevant, the space in the bottom left here was your room. In Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, you could opt to have your mother save some cash for you from the battles you won. Eventually, her shopping habits would get the best of her, and she'd dig into your funds to get you some in-game items, or even Pokemon plushes that you could use to decorate your in-game room. That data would carry over to this place, now realized in glorious early 3D gameplay. Obviously, 3D had a different meaning back then. I think this could be kept as a fun way to keep track of your accomplishments in the yard and give you a place to decorate with your various in-game acquisitions. Although I'd love to see it updated a bit to include more than just your bedroom. This would also be where you spend your in-game currency mentioned before, to acquire new decorations, maybe some interactive toys for the Me feature, or maybe different accessories or trainer appearances that you could put in the photo booth. The game options here can go all over since it has no competitive impact. Lastly, we have the big important feature, the stadium. Smack dab in the middle of everything. This large space would be where all the big shots go to see just what they can accomplish when pitted against their fellow trainers from across the world. There would be several special battle modes so that everyone's favorites could see some time to shine. Modes restricting users to the baby Pokemon only, Stage 1 forms, middle stages, level restrictions, ones that can't evolve, Battle of Titans for legendaries only, custom lobbies with several optional rules, anything goes matches, and ones that follow the current gen's restrictions to keep it familiar to the game that's out and relevant at the moment. Some would support worldwide challengers, much as how this has worked in the past with all the global battles. While some of the more user-generated or oddball ones may end up being among friends only, since they'd be pretty specific, and I'm not sure that the community at large wants to see several rooms of Magikarp-only battles listed alongside whatever makes up the current meta. I'd also like to have these matches able to be viewed by a few other players at any given time, where they can give small in-game callouts of support or encouragement or something. Just because I've often wanted to be able to dip in on other players and see just what fun they've got going on in their battles. Also, when going in, any Pokemon that had a Gigantamax form, or a Mega form, or special Z moves, or so on, would be allowed in these battles in the custom options. Simply put, let's say you had a Blaziken in your roster with no held items, and the custom rules allowed for Megas. The game would ask you if you wanted this Pokemon to borrow a Mega Stone for this match. That's just an example of how I think that you might be able to work those in there for people who are irritated that they're not going to be involved anymore. In theory, this game that I'm calling Pokemon Yard would be a sizable game even without coming up with a whole extra region. It might not even fit on a cart for all I know. It may have to be a download only, or have a base cart version with an on-launch update to fill out the extra content, although I doubt it on the base game as it would stand. But as more and more titles come out and more Pokemon and leaders keep getting developed, the file size would keep growing. But this would be an option for those of us who just aren't happy leaving all that we've built up behind. Also, this would give a good excuse for us to maintain those constant fees that all these companies are wanting to push on us. I also think this would give an incentive for new players to have something to build towards. This might just give all parties at least a little of what they want. What do you think? Am I throwing out any good ideas? Do you have a unique section idea that you'd like to share? What are your thoughts about the entire Pokédex issue to begin with? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I do read them, and either way, I hope to see you in Galar. Have a good one.